It's the one place in Las Vegas where we've created a natural paradise of watery wonders for all. Perfectly adapted desert animals, good earth for growing up in. And there are many more stories at the Springs Preserve where all that matters is what's elemental. The preserve is so earnest about water conservation and education that we've created a space right alongside an operational and fully functioning pump station, which is now open to the public and revealing the wonders of water in our new Waterworks exhibit.
We hope to demystify how water gets to their taps. We walk up to a tap, we turn it on, and magic, water comes out. We really don't understand how much work it takes, number one, to locate the water source here in Las Vegas as part of the Colorado River system. Two, to intake that water for treatment from Lake Mead, and then to pump it and treat it thousands of miles through all of these pipes, up a couple thousand feet to more than 2 million people.
Putting an exhibit like this in an actual pumping station is truly a unique way to give people a real feeling of how much effort, energy, and expertise it takes to keep reliable, high-quality water coursing throughout the valley.
So when you come into the exhibit, you're going to hear the hum of massive pumps that actually pump water throughout the valley. You're going to get to see what it takes to get that clean, reliable water to them.
Visitors can run through a series of stations that allow them to act as the engineers, operators, and scientists responsible for constructing and controlling our whole immense and complex water supply system.
People that come out to Waterworks are going to see two really large features when they first get here. The first one is an actual tunnel segment, just like the ones that were used to build the 3-mile tunnel under Lake Mead to connect the intake to our new system. And it's a massive ring. This new tunnel and the intake and the subsequent pumping station will allow us to be able to draw water should Lake Mead water levels continue to decline. The second structure is an enormous pipe that has a big butterfly valve in it that represents all the pipes that crisscross the valley that help bring water to our homes and our businesses. Once inside that pipe, visitors really are immersed in water infrastructure.
And we hope to fill our youthful visitors with a sense of their own potential for choosing to be the next generation of water stewards.
The kids that come through this exhibit may be the future engineers, operators, technicians, or inventors that help us to have a better and more successful water future. And the exhibits that we have here, like Waterworks, are here to inspire those young people and dream about what they might do someday.
The exhibit also offers solutions for more immediate and daily changes in water awareness and savings, thanks to the expertise of project partners, a group including the Las Vegas Valley Water District and the Southern Nevada Water Authority, in partnership with One Drop with contributions from the RBC Blue Water Project and Springs Preserve Foundation.
It's water.
One Drop in particular knows the essential nature of this resource and how water can work well for the rest of the world.
One Drop puts water into actions in 3 different ways. We do that through our unique model called the ABCs for sustainability. A is for access, B is for behavior, and C is for capital. Access to water is just the beginning. Through social arts, we try and change behavior, and then the C, capital, is really the microloans that we offer to the communities. This way, we empower these people to become self-reliant. So all together, we really work on a lasting impact, a lasting change, and that's how we put water into action.
Through international funding and infrastructure, along with the kind of creative play that comes so naturally to One Drop's visionary founders.
We feel that by touching an emotional chord, we really impact people, and we can create a lasting change in behavior, especially unhealthy behavior. So we work on social arts, Clearly, One Drop was founded by the founder of Cirque du Soleil. So when it comes to art, that's really truly in our DNA. So we find locally inspired art forms that we can work with in the communities to change this behavior.
So they wanted their portion of the Waterworks story to be emotional and enjoyable for global and local users of this universally important human resource.
It's a powerful message, but we wanted it to be fun and interactive. We really wanted the kids to understand what it would be like to walk in somebody else's shoes for a little bit, like a girl that wakes up here in Summerlin and goes to school compared to a girl in Burkina Faso that has to walk for miles on a daily basis and actually can't go to school. But we still wanted them to make it fun and interactive so the kids will learn while they're playing, which is the best way to learn, clearly.
And to appreciate our inheritance from the historic flow of water that made Las Vegas possible, and our investment in the wonders still to come for sustaining and innovating the ways water works.
Waterworks is really appropriate for this place, the Springs Preserve. I mean, it was here where the original water flowed from the desert floor, and we all know how important water is, especially in the desert. That water allowed plants and animals to survive, and people for thousands of years. Most important for us, it allowed a small train stopover called Las Vegas to become a thriving and diverse community. This place remains a community and cultural gathering place, and it's still the water, the one thing that ties us all together, that makes this place so special.
Discover the faces and places of the past at Boomtown 1905, our recreated historical streetscape where you can stroll back in time and learn more about the humble beginnings of Las Vegas through engaging interpretive exhibits. Visit springspreserve.org for more information. With the opening of our new teaching garden and a continuing educational series for homeschooled students, the preserve's botanical landscape has a more youthful feel that naturally goes with growing for learners at any age.
There was just a demographic of kids out there that are homeschooled, and I thought this would be kind of fun to see and have everything revolving around the garden. And so it's just kind of evolved. It was one class, and now we do two classes. And as some of the kids grow up with me, or I grow up with the kids, we'll probably have some older kids too doing this.
Because, as these students have already begun to discover, gardening has its share of both growing gains and pains.
I use the phrase that I got from a master gardener is that you talk about your successes and then you compost your failures. So a lot of the kids that I am teaching already have their own gardens, so I kind of take off from what they know and then build it from there. And trying to do a little bit of a permaculture twist with it where we're working with nature and doing some problem solving and letting them be critical thinkers, like, well, how do we solve this problem?
And now that our teaching garden is up and growing, thanks to a grant from the Rogers Foundation, we're learning some basic skills for identifying any pests or problems that might appear. And we'll be documenting its seasonal progress through the eyes and accounts of the students who have hoed their own rows and taken on a sense of ownership.
So it's not just about learning how to plant, but also design and diagnostic work and things like that too. So I'm hoping to do a little bit different with the older kids, just simply because they have been taking things on a little bit further. For instance, some of my older kids started doing video out in the garden, so I thought, okay, that's what we're going to start doing. They're going to be making a documentary on how we get this done. So I want them to be kind of ambassadors to tell others, like, this is what we did, this is how we planned it. And so it's kind of going to be like a kids teaching kids.
With a focus on our STEAM-driven curriculum of science, technology, engineering, arts, and math-based activities that also offer students and the whole community of educators and desert gardeners the place and time to get growing.
And it's to be able to give a hands-on experience to kids at schools and teachers and just the general public. So we'll be doing a lot of different garden field trips, plus I'll also be using it for the homeschool group. I teach a series of classes for teachers on how to incorporate a teaching garden at their school. And then also just for adults, regular adults that want to learn how to garden too. I'm thrilled. I feel like I'm just playing and with a bunch of playmates, so gardening at the same time. And just with a little bit of support and guidance and actually some hands-on activities, hopefully we'll make Vegas a greener place.
We've been plotting and planning all year long to frighten and delight the whole family with every imaginable trick-or-treat at our annual Haunted Harvest Festival. So come join us for food, entertainment, crafts, cute and pettable animals, and games. Come honor loved ones and experience the rich Hispanic traditions of the Day of the Dead at the Springs Preserve. It's a family-friendly feast for the senses that will include live entertainment, traditional food, face painting, sugar skull decorating, and the original altars that are artworks dedicated to the departed but not forgotten. All aboard for the North Pole as Santa Claus puts in an appearance before he gets really busy on Christmas Eve as the conductor of all the holly jollity on our Holiday Express journey to the Santa's magical village. For more information or to buy advance tickets online, visit springspreserve.org. Within the compact campus of the Springs Preserve, we've managed to assemble an expansive universe of educational experiences, which includes all the additional millennia of natural and human history represented by the Nevada State Museum. The museum features some favorite displays like the charismatic mega fossil of an ancient Nevada mammoth, the ghosts of miners past, and the desert detonation of more modern atomic bombs. It's truly a 21st century museum that highlights innovative and interactive ways of immersing visitors in Nevada's geological and cultural phenomena. And as a gathering place for special events and exhibitions, its venues are only matched by its views of the preserve and its vistas of our historic city. That's why it fits right in with the landscape of learning at the preserve by offering a state museum of national stature that also plays an important role locally. Our new traveling exhibit will fill the Origin Museum with the power of children who made a difference in the world by rising above oppression and injustice. Through the words, deeds, and voices of Anne Frank, Ruby Bridges, and Ryan White, you'll experience their triumphs over the Holocaust, segregation, and the AIDS epidemic. And we know you'll leave the gallery changed for the better. It's been a decade in the making, and so to celebrate our 10th birthday, we inspired our professional, amateur, and youth photographers to present their visions of the number 10. And they gave 110% to the pictures that are now on display in the Big Springs Gallery. For more information, visit springspreserve.org. Evolutionary history has made lizards highly adapted masters in the Mojave universe, and that's why they're enshrined in our living collection habitat and evident all over the preserve as some of the wisest desert survivors.
All of the lizards that you see on display at the Springs Preserve are native Mojave Desert lizards. So they're animals that you would actually find in our desert around Las Vegas. Some of the favorites, some of the ones that people are always really drawn to are our chuckwallas, which are, the largest non-venomous lizard that we have here in the United States. They're an herbivore. They're the ones that they will go run into a pile of rocks, and in order to get away or hide away from a predator, they'll kind of blow themselves up like a balloon. And so that predator can't actually pull them out, so they're kind of wedging themselves in. It's a really unique defense mechanism that they have, and because they're such a large lizard, and sometimes they can be a little bit colorful, the males may have an orange coloration on their back, people recognize them very easily, and they're always a favorite.
In a close race with a more colorful, quite colossal, yet often hard to find lizard.
Another one that lots of people are always interested in is the Gila monster. Because they're big, because they're venomous, because they're flashy, they're the really pretty ones. And if you're lucky, you get to see them out in the wild. But fortunately, we have 4 specimens on exhibit here.
And like all our living collection lizards, they're always on display and usually putting on quite a show at feeding time.
They are used to a person meaning food. And so they've just become acclimated to us as, you know, the people that bring the bugs or the people that bring the flowers. And so of course they're going to run up and, you know, their first inclination may be, hey, do you have more worms for me today? In the wild, lizards are much more afraid of people, and, you know, naturally so, rightfully so. We are huge in comparison to them.
And we have a huge interest in observing their every move for all the best reasons.
We watch their behavior, and that as we're trained to do this, we learn how to watch for them and see what's normal behavior and see if there's something that's unusual, and that lets us know if they're unhealthy or if they've been injured, or if maybe there's some kind of breeding thing happening or territorial, some kind of competition over the exhibit space.
When it comes to defending their territory, they can be pretty pushy competitors.
What they're doing is they're telling you this is their territory. It's a territorial thing. You know, they would push up at other, you know, lizards of the same species to tell them, this is my space, this is my, you know, these are my girls over here, this is my territory, this is my food. But so when you drive by or we walk by or something and we're these humongous people and this lizard that's this big is doing push-ups, you know, I'm always like, okay, buddy, that's your rock. Like, I don't want to mess with it, you can have it, you know, and it cracks me up that they have that much nerve, you know, in that little body to be doing push-ups at a human.
Although that's not the only or even the most amazing activity the typical lizard can engage, or rather disengage in.
Tail regeneration is a really amazing defense mechanism. So basically what happens in those lizards that can regenerate their tail, many of them have already like these precursory breaks in their tail, these spaces in their tail where it's already almost pre-programmed for them to be able to break their tail off at that spot. It's called a fracture plate in their tail. And so that is a spot where they can break that bone apart, or they can sever those blood vessels and drop their tail, and then this tail still has nerve endings in it. And so it'll wiggle on the ground. And a predator is going to focus on that and get an easy meal while that lizard is able to escape. But they have this really cool process that they can actually regrow their tail back.
It just adds to the unending fascination desert dwellers like us should naturally have in observing and practicing every survival skill we can master, lizard-wise.
The lizards that live here in the desert are so amazingly well adapted to living in a place with very little water, with very high temperatures, with you know, a difficult to find food supply, that I think that as people learn about them, you know, we can see what we can do to be more water conscious, to be more aware of our surroundings, to figure out more ways to survive the heat here in the desert, you know, following their example by maybe being outside in the morning and the evening and being tucked away someplace nice and cool during the middle of the day. You know, and just also learning that they are all part of that food chain and they are all important to our ecosystem here in the desert. It's a very delicate balance in this desert. And so learning about them and kind of getting to love them as you see what's really interesting about these lizards, I think it kind of propagates that sense of wanting to protect the community and the ecosystem that we live in. And I think that's a huge part, you know, that's a massive part of what we do here at the Springs Preserve.
Our hugely popular butterfly habitat will be open for most of the fall until November 19th before the colder weather arrives. So plan your end-of-the-year visit now by checking on the Butterflight schedule at springspreserve.org. Our love of the earth at the preserve grows deeper with every successful bloom because of our gardening experts who live, breathe, and recycle soil and scraps over and over again into ever better brands of compost.
So we've been composting at the Springs Preserve since our inception, and that's a really fundamental key for us in working towards sustainability. So it's critical for us to take all of our waste products of green material and food scraps and compost them to be used back on site. So it's a closed circuit loop, and we're turning something that would otherwise be waste into a useful product.
And that waste not, want not philosophy attracted our master composter, Bernie Schwab, who grew up close to the earth and eventually pursued it as his career.
I grew up on a farm, and my dad was, you know, I wanted to farm, and my dad talked me off the farm, but I'm still playing in the dirt. I started a soil blending operation in the early 80s, and we were making quite a bit of soil mixes, and our goal was to save water.
Which makes him an ideal mixologist of compost for water-efficient desert landscapes.
What we're doing here is reclaiming all the green material you see around here, all the pruning, if you notice around here, all the trees, the shrubbery, the bushes. It's an asset that goes back into the soil.
So here at the preserve, there's no such thing as waste from the garden or the table.
In the last year, we've composted 52,000 pounds of just food waste from our cafe and a few events, so it really makes a marked difference.
We use the food waste from the restaurant, and we blend that all in with the dry material, which is, there's a lot of that here. And the dry material is wood chips, leaves, and real small, maybe the small limbs. We run them through a chipper so we can get it all down to small pieces. And then we try to mix the two together like 50-50, 50% green and 50% brown.
Then, like some amazing stew of soil, it starts cooking and we stir it up good.
And within about 24 hours, by adding enough moisture to it, the temperature will rise in this material to a minimum of 130 degrees. And we try not to let it go over 160. That temperature area is where the bacteria work the best. All they need is air and water. So we provide that for them and turn it like maybe every week to give it fresh air.
And in no time at all, for gardeners, the simple recipe turns into an earthy miracle.
After about 3 months' time, this is the finished product. You can't identify anything. Do you see any leaves, any twigs in there, any pieces of food, any orange peelings, banana peelings? I mean, that all was the raw material several months ago. Anyway, this material is the compost that we're making, and we put it back in the soil here to keep all the growth going.
But you don't need all the green and brown resources of the preserve for your own home composting operation.
Composting can be as simple or as complicated as somebody wants to make it. And there are contained systems that can be purchased by a homeowner, or independent piles that just sit out, even a single pile that's turned regularly. So it can be as small or as large an operation as anyone wishes to make it.
It's a labor of love for the life-giving earth that's well worth the effort.
You're making black gold. I mean, you can do it yourself, and it's not rocket science.
Come grow your garden with us during our workshops that will teach you the ways raising herbs with all their fragrances, tastes, colors, textures, and shapes can make life more sensational, and the unique and memorable gifts that only you and your garden can give. Space is limited for these and many other classes, so please pre-register online, in person, or by phone at 702-822-7700. Chef Cicely has the whole fall cornucopia going on in her kitchen. Only her bounty of harvest vegetables and leftover proteins from holiday meals are filling up a crusty French baguette that will bowl you over with its beautiful presentation and autumn-rich flavors.
Howdy folks, thanks for joining me, Chef Cicely, here at the Divine Cafe in the Springs Preserve. Today we are going to be doing double duty in the kitchen, so it's a great time of year to take some of the bountiful produce that's available, like what I've got here. Portobello mushrooms, which are full-grown cremini mushrooms, the bell peppers, late kind of harvest vegetables, summer squash, onions all the time, and then asparagus. Then I'm going to take all of that, put it onto my grill over a medium-high heat, and once everything starts to brown up and caramelize, I'm just gonna go ahead and pull it right off. And then I end up with this wonderful display of vegetables that I can use for just about anything. So what we are going to do is take a nice hollowed out loaf of bread like this, and then I'm gonna take some butter that I've got, and I'm gonna brush the inside of this bread. I'm gonna put it back on the grill or even into an oven. Just roast it, let it actually dry out even further. And then what we're going to do is take all of our wonderful vegetables with a special marinade, toss them up and put them in here. So what I'm doing right now is I'm painting the inside of that bread with my marinade that is made from honey and balsamic and creme fraiche, seasoned with oregano and salt and pepper and garlic powder. All right, so that guy's done. Now the fun begins. So I'm gonna start with this one with some grilled chicken, some prosciutto, I have some sliced Gouda cheese and also mozzarella, so double duty on the cheese. The order is really up to you. I tend to like to do the cheese on the bottom to hold everything together, and also to keep that bread, because it is dry, it's gonna soak up moisture. I've got some chicken over here. Same concept, just layering it in there. Nice even, pulling it all the way to the sides. And now I'm doing this with chicken and cheese. This could be done also without any protein. This could be done with steak. This could be done with turkey. Who doesn't love to make a leftover Thanksgiving turkey sandwich? But also who doesn't necessarily want to be in the kitchen after having cooked Thanksgiving dinner? So it could be layered with things like mashed potatoes, cranberries, green beans, same concept. I'm layering in prosciutto right now. And I love prosciutto, so of course I want to make sure that I get a bite of that in every bite. And then that basil. A great thing about leaving the basil leaves whole, intact, and not slicing them, and then packaging them the way they are in this dish, layered in with other things that are moist, is that they will not brown. We like those happy green fluffy plants. Throwing in my surprise garlic bites, perhaps a little bit of salt, just to soften up those veggies. And then layering in those whole summer squash. Asparagus. Using those top ends of it, those are the ends that aren't too woody and tough. Everything that's in this particular recreation is very tender, except for the bread, which we made nice and crusty. And then layering in those peppers right on the top. You could add as much of any one thing as you wanted, as little of any one thing as you wanted. Stuff this thing with whatever you would like. Who doesn't want a little bit more cheese over the top? Now this creation could be brought to another dinner party as is. Could be closed off, wrapped up in saran wrap nice and tight, sliced for lunches for a week or a giant family, or even just served as dinner for the next day. And in slicing it, this is one done previously with steak and Gouda cheese. In wrapping it with the saran wrap, what you enable is being able to slice off and have it still hold together. And of course, the longer it sets, the prettier it is, as it compacts nice and evenly together. So thank you for joining me, Chef Cicely, here at the Divine Cafe at the Springs Preserve, recreating a harvest dinner into lunch for a week, the next dinner party, whatever you'd like. Thanks again.
There's a lot more to discover, so join us next time here at the Springs Preserve to wade into our waterworks, delve into our fertile ground and gardens, divine the inspired designs of our desert creatures, and mingle to bring new life to Las Vegas.